The Murders in the Rue Morgue is a 1986 TV movie that played on CBS and starred George C. Scott, Rebecca De Mornay, Val Kilmer, and Ian McShane. And it was from a story that was written by Edgar Allan Poe. Who is the murderer? I don't Edgar Allan know, because I stopped the movie in the middle so that I wouldn't spoil it and so that we could talk about the suspects and I could say who I thought did it, and then I'll watch the second half and maybe I'll do a second video. I'm hoping to post this on Tuesday, so this should be a TV Tuesday post. And also, welcome to the middle of the film because I stopped it in the middle. George C. Scott plays an inspector who's been fired from his job. He's very depressed. This is in the 1800s in Paris, and it's pre-electricity. They have gas lights. There is a sort of tramp bum character who's killed pre-credits by something that sounds like an animal, but it could be a person. It could be both. It's Edgar Allan Poe, so it's probably some kind of weird supernatural killer. I genuinely don't know. But this guy's happy. He's splashing his feet in the river, drinking his big old bottle of Thunderbird or whatever. And then he's murdered by something that's growling. And then Val Kilmer gets off the train. He's met at the train by Rebecca De Mornay. She is George C. Scott's daughter, and Val Kilmer is a family friend who wants to be a detective. His father was a detective with Scott's character. De Mornay is very jumpy. We see her walking home at night. The night before, she's frightened by someone striking a match, and she's frightened by a classic "it's just a cat" jump scare. We don't know why, other than that she's stressed out about her father losing his job and never leaving the house anymore. She has a fiance who is a bank clerk. He is the obvious suspect for the second and third murders because he walked the victims home after they made a large cash withdrawal. So he gets arrested by Ian McShane, who's playing a dastardly, mustachioed, cape-wearing prefect. I don't know what a prefect is in the French police force, but he was George C. Scott's boss. He has fired him pretty much without cause and doesn't want to let him get involved in the investigation. Now, the murders, they're very gruesome. They couldn't show a lot on TV, of course, because it was CBS in 1986, but it's a mother and a daughter. They live in a big house that's gated, which is strange because it's mentioned that the mother was a seamstress, but I guess they had a large amount of money in the bank. Maybe that'll come up as part of the mystery. We see this murder from the killer's point of view. They come in, they start knocking things over. The women are screaming. Then they're backed against the wall. We see their shadows and blood start to spray on the wall. They're screaming and screaming. The whole neighborhood comes, the neighbors and the gendarmes, the policemen on the beat. And by the time they finally get through the gate and into the house, the screaming stops suddenly because both women are dead. Everyone comes up the stairs and they don't see the murderer leaving. The stairs are the only way to get into the house. So this is a mystery. The daughter has been squeezed to death as by something very strong or someone and stuffed up the chimney in such a way that it takes several men to even get her out. So they don't know how the murderer did this, where they went. The mother has been decapitated and left on the lawn, but laid out, not all crumpled up and as if, this person had been screaming, then the screaming stops, then the murderer vanishes. I don't know who did it. I have several suspects. Of course, the fiance is immediately arrested because he's the one that took them home. But Val Kilmer obviously is in love with Rebecca De Mornay's character, doesn't want her to be getting married to this guy, makes no secret about it. They go to visit him in jail because Scott isn't allowed to go by the big bad prefect. So it's obviously not the fiance that did it because he's the obvious suspect. But I think it could be Val Kilmer. They made a big point of him just coming into town, but he could be some sort of monster. Um, However, we weren't really into the everything is a twist back in the 80s yet, especially not for a garden variety movie of the week. So I'm going with Ian McShane because he must have fired George C. Scott in order to start committing murders and have his best inspector off the job. But I don't know. I always have seen him play a rogue. I'm most familiar with Ian McShane from Lovejoy, which is a beloved series of mine. I'm just getting into Deadwood. I know most people know him from Deadwood as Al Swearingen, where he played a real villain and not just a wide boy. So, everyone has an argument with George C. Scott, one after another in this movie. He doesn't get very bombastic. His trademark was to start yelling, and that doesn't happen in the first half of the movie, really. And I will say I didn't have a lot of overanalyzation to do, except that Rue Morgue, it means the street where the morgue is. And morgue means the same thing in French as it does in English, a place to put the bodies. But it also can mean that someone is arrogant. They will say, il a de la morgue. He has the morgue. He has the arrogance. Or an even more archaic meaning of morgue was a room at the beginning, at the entrance of the jail, where they would put a suspect to allow them to be examined closely. So what are we on? We're on the street of the place where they put the bodies, the place where someone is arrogant. That certainly would describe Ian McShane's character. And that's my prediction that he done it. But what do you think? And have you seen this movie? And do you particularly like older TV movies like this? Do you have some others that you would recommend? Because this is definitely right up my rue, an Edgar Allan Poe story starring George C. Scott. I love George C. Scott because he was in The Changeling, which was probably the first horror movie that I ever saw. When I think about watching movies on HBO, I'm pretty sure that was the movie that got me into horror and kept me sleeping with the covers over my head for many years after hearing the seance that was in that movie. But I also knew him from Exorcist 3, which has been an underrated film. I hope that at this point it's rated because it's great. I was hoping to find an Ian McShane movie to watch and talk to you about, but I was intending to just go with Lovejoy, and then I stumbled on this movie, which I didn't even know he was in until I saw the credits roll. But I'm starting to watch Deadwood. That'll be the next show that I'm talking about. We had found the entire series for, I think, $8 in our favorite consignment store. So that goes with me trying to go on a budget, not doing the expensive streaming as much. But I've got the complete series of Deadwood sitting here ready to go. So I'm going to talk about some movies that people who were in Deadwood were in. I've got a good movie coming up to talk to you about that starred John Hawkes. And I've got to think of something for the star. I can never remember his name. He's very handsome. His name is Timothy. And I remember him from Go. So I may just talk about that. So I'm coming up on 10 minutes. It's a rainy Sunday here. I'm hoping to post this on Tuesday and call it a TV Tuesday. And I'm trying to stay warm. I hope you're warm where you are, and I hope that you are not lonely and you've got something good to watch today or a good game to play. And Have a good afternoon.